forced to marry her sister's blind millionaire fiancé until the day he finally saw her face. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The cold evening wind brushed against Evelyn Hart's cheeks as she stood outside the towering Stonewell mansion, its marble columns lit with warm golden light. The world behind those doors belonged to people far above her pay grade, yet tonight she was being pushed into it. Her hands trembled inside her thin coat, and her heartbeat hammered loud enough that she almost did not hear her mother whisper urgently beside her, "Please, Evelyn. I am begging you. If you do not help us this time, your sister's life will be completely ruined." Evelyn swallowed hard. Her sister Clarissa Hart, the city's golden girl, the perfect daughter, the one who was supposed to marry Damian Blackwell, the blind young millionaire whose family owned half the tech patents in the state, had run away that very morning. No explanation. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. And the Blackwell family's legal team had arrived at the Hart household before lunch. A broken engagement meant millions in penalties. Assets frozen. Contracts canceled. The collapse of her father's small construction firm. Everything her parents had built would evaporate in a single day. So now Evelyn, the quiet one, the girl who worked part-time at a bookstore to pay off student loans, the girl who never asked for anything extravagant, was being told she had only one choice: take her sister's place, marry the blind millionaire, pretend nothing had gone wrong. Her mother pressed a trembling hand to her arm. "He cannot see your face. He will not know. Just for the ceremony. Just until we figure something out." Evelyn's breath fogged in the night air. She wanted to protest, to scream, to run, but the weight of her family's desperation pinned her to the stone steps beneath her feet. Behind the heavy doors, lawyers waited. A contract waited. And Damian Blackwell, a man she had never met, a man whose world she did not belong to, waited. A black luxury car pulled up to the entrance. The back door opened and Evelyn saw him for the first time. Damian Blackwell did not look like a man who had lost his bride hours before. He stood tall, shoulders squared beneath a charcoal overcoat, expression unreadable. A thin, elegant cane rested in his right hand, and dark glasses hid the eyes that the world had not seen in 3 years. His posture was controlled, composed, powerful in a way that made Evelyn feel suddenly small. His voice cut through the air, low, smooth, impossibly steady. "Is she here?" The family attorney stepped forward. "Yes, Mr. Blackwell. Everything is ready. The ceremony will take place in the private hall as discussed." Damian nodded once. "Then let us finish this." Finish this. As if marriage, her marriage, was nothing more than a transaction closing. The attorney turned to Evelyn. "Miss Hart, please follow us. There are papers to sign. You will need to agree to all terms of the temporary marital contract." Temporary. That word struck her like a blade. Inside the mansion, warm light washed over polished wood floors and grand portraits of Blackwell ancestors. The air smelled faintly of cedar and old books. Evelyn walked like a ghost behind the attorney, her fingers brushing the smooth gold band that would become her wedding ring in less than an hour. At the end of the hallway, the attorney handed her a folder. Clause 1, he read aloud: "No physical intimacy of any kind unless mutually renegotiated." Her cheeks warmed. Clause 2, "No interference with Mr. Blackwell's business affairs, medical decisions, or household management." Evelyn nodded weakly. Clause 3, he continued, "You will appear publicly as his lawful wife at 5 mandatory events throughout the next 90 days. She felt the weight of those days settle heavily on her shoulders. And finally, Clause 4, "Both parties agree that this marriage is a legal arrangement, not an emotional one. No expectations of affection, no expectations of love." Those words stung more sharply than she expected. When the attorney left her alone to collect herself, Evelyn closed her eyes, trying to steady her breath. Her life had always been defined by quiet routines, small joys, simple dreams, and now she was about to marry a man who did not know her name, did not know her face, and believed she was someone else entirely. A soft knock at the door startled her. Damian Blackwell himself stood in the doorway, guided by the faint tap of his cane. He tilted his head slightly, sensing her presence. "Miss Hart." His voice was calm, but there was a shadow beneath the surface. "Before we proceed, I must ask you one thing." Evelyn's heart lurched. "Yes. Do you intend to honor this contract without deception of your own?" Her breath caught. If only he knew. She forced her voice steady. "Yes, I will honor it." Damian nodded slowly, as if her answer mattered more than he wanted to show. "Then let us begin." The ceremony hall awaited, quiet, dim, intimate. Just a judge, a pen, 2 signatures, and a contract that would bind her to him until the day he finally saw her face. The quiet ceremony felt unreal, as if Evelyn were drifting through a dream she had never asked to enter. The vows were spoken softly, without poetry, without promises of forever, only legal phrases carried through a private hall that smelled of cedar and candle smoke. When the judge asked her to sign, her fingers shook so hard that the pen rattled on the page. Damian, in contrast, signed with one smooth stroke, his expression unreadable behind his dark glasses. When it was over, the judge closed the folder and said, "You are now legally married." No applause, no music, no joy, just silence. Evelyn lowered her gaze, unsure where to look. She wondered if Damian felt anything at all. He did not turn toward her immediately. He only tapped his cane once, a small signal that he was preparing to move. "Evelyn," he said at last, his voice measured, "there are arrangements you need to know." Her breath caught. "Arrangements, yes. You will reside in the east wing of the Blackwell estate. Your room has already been prepared. You will attend the upcoming charity gala with me on Friday night. That will be our first public appearance." Friday. That was only 4 days away. He continued, "My assistant will provide you with the appropriate wardrobe. If there is anything you require, inform her directly. I prefer clear communication." Evelyn nodded, even though she knew he could not see it. "I understand." "Good." He paused, then added more quietly, "I do not expect companionship. I expect reliability." The words were simple, but something in his tone carried the faintest strain, as if he had learned not to hope for anything more. They walked out of the hall together, but not as lovers, barely even as strangers. The attorney led them to the waiting car. Damian reached for the door, but misjudged the edge by an inch. His cane tapped softly against the metal. Evelyn instinctively stepped forward and guided his hand to the handle. He froze. It was 1 second, maybe 2, but she felt his breath shift, as if he were surprised by the warmth of someone helping without hesitation. He did not thank her, but his posture eased almost imperceptibly as he entered the car. During the ride to the estate, the city lights flickered across the windows like distant stars. Evelyn sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap, feeling the weight of the ring on her finger. She was married. Married to a man who did not know she was not the sister he had been promised. Married to a man who had lived 3 years behind a curtain of darkness. Damian spoke suddenly, breaking the quiet. "You are very quiet, Evelyn." She lifted her eyes. "It has been a heavy day." "I imagined so." His voice softened slightly. "I will not make this harder for you than necessary." She wanted to believe that. She needed to. When the car rolled through the iron gates of the Blackwell estate, Evelyn felt her breath catch. The mansion stretched across the hill like a monument carved from stone and shadow. Windows glowed warmly, and tall oak trees lined the driveway like silent guardians. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and fresh linen. Staff members nodded respectfully as they passed. Evelyn could feel their curious eyes following her, wondering who she was, wondering why the bride looked so different from the glamorous woman they had expected. Damian paused at the base of the grand staircase. "This is where we part for tonight. My assistant will take you to your room. We have an early meeting tomorrow." She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Good night, Damian." He turned his head slightly toward her voice, a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. "Good night, Evelyn." As she followed the assistant down the long corridor, her footsteps echoed softly. Every portrait on the wall seemed to watch her, every chandelier seemed too bright, every door too tall. She was in a marriage built on secrets, a contract sealed with desperation, and a husband who had never seen her face, but might one day open his eyes. And when that day came, she had no idea what he would see in her. Evelyn woke before sunrise, the soft glow of the estate's automated lights brushing gently across her room. For a moment she forgot where she was. The velvet curtains, the carved wooden furniture, the quiet hum of a house far too large for one person to fill, none of it belonged to her old life. It felt like she had stepped into another woman's world, a woman she was pretending to be, at least for now. A soft knock sounded. "Mrs. Blackwell," a woman's voice called. "I am Helen, Mr. Blackwell's assistant. He asked me to prepare you for the day." Mrs. Blackwell. The words still felt too heavy on her ears. Evelyn opened the door. Helen stood neatly dressed, holding a tablet and a garment bag. "Mr. Blackwell has a strict routine," Helen explained gently. "Breakfast at 7, review meeting at 8, walk through the garden at 9 for sunlight therapy. He expects you to join him." Evelyn blinked. "Me, for all of that, yes. As his wife, your presence reassures investors and the foundation team that Mr. Blackwell's personal life is stable. He needs stability to negotiate upcoming contracts." Evelyn nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her new role. Helen unzipped the garment bag. Inside was a simple but elegant outfit chosen for her soft beige tones, modest neckline, polished but not extravagant. Something a quiet, poised wife would wear. Something Clarissa would have worn effortlessly. Evelyn felt her chest tighten, but she dressed and followed Helen downstairs. Damian was already seated in the breakfast room, listening to a report read aloud by one of the household staff. His dark glasses caught the morning light. When Evelyn entered, he turned toward the sound of her footsteps. "Good morning, Evelyn," he said. His voice held no warmth but no coldness either, only a steady calm that made her unsure where she stood. "Good morning," she replied. "Sit," he said, tapping the chair beside him. She did. The scent of fresh coffee filled the air alongside warm toast and scrambled eggs. She realized quickly that Damian ate with careful precision, counting distances by touch, never spilling, never fumbling. His world was darkness, yet he moved as if he had memorized every square inch of it. After breakfast he rose and rested his hand lightly on her forearm. Not intimately, just enough to guide him. "We have a schedule," he said. "I trust Helen has informed you." "Yes," she answered, steadying herself. Their first walk through the garden was quiet. The early morning air was crisp and the sound of birds echoed gently through the trimmed hedges. Damian stepped forward, confidently, guided only by the faint tapping of his cane. "Tell me," he said, "are you comfortable with the expectations of this arrangement?" Evelyn hesitated. "I am still learning." "That is acceptable," he replied, "as long as you do not lie." The words landed heavier than she expected. She wondered if he would say them so easily if he knew the truth. Throughout the next days, Evelyn learned the rhythm of Damian Blackwell's world. Staff greeted her with cautious curiosity. Helen trained her on social etiquette. Tailors visited to adjust her wardrobe for Friday's event. She practiced answering polite questions without revealing anything personal, just as the contract required. She did not realize how exhausting pretending could be until she collapsed into bed each night. Soon Friday arrived. The charity gala was held in a grand hotel ballroom illuminated by crystal chandeliers and gold-trimmed pillars. Dozens of guests whispered the moment Damian and Evelyn stepped in his hand, resting lightly on her arm as they moved through the crowd. It was the first time society saw them together. Reporters lifted their cameras. Investors turned eager to assess the new Mrs. Blackwell. Evelyn forced herself to breathe slowly. Damian leaned close to her ear. "Remember, we present unity. Do not fear them." But even with his steady presence beside her, the eyes of the room felt sharp, cutting, judging. A woman approached them, dripping in diamonds. Her voice carried the tone of someone who had always felt superior. "So this is the new bride," she said. "You look nothing like Clarissa." Evelyn stiffened. Damian's head turned slightly. "Evelyn," he said calmly. "Do you know this woman?" "No," she answered softly. The woman smirked. "Of course you do not." Clarissa was unforgettable. A few guests chuckled under their breath. Damian straightened. His voice dropped into a quiet firmness that silenced the room around them. "My wife," he said, "is not here to be compared, and I expect my guests to show her respect." The woman froze. Whispers rippled across the ballroom. Evelyn felt something shift inside her, a strange warmth, a strange relief. For the first time since their marriage, Damian had chosen her side without hesitation, and yet she wondered as the crowd parted respectfully for them. Would he still stand beside her so firmly, the day he finally saw her face? The car ride home from the gala was wrapped in a heavy, thoughtful silence. City lights rolled across the windows like blurred rivers of gold, but Evelyn barely noticed. Her heart was still racing from the confrontation earlier. Damian had defended her in front of dozens of wealthy guests, not as a contractual obligation but as if she truly mattered. She did not know what to make of that feeling. Beside her, Damian sat upright, his posture calm but distant. His cane rested lightly against his leg. He seemed deep in thought, his jaw set with a quiet tension. At last he spoke. "You handled yourself well tonight." The compliment caught her off guard. "I only did what I could." "Many would have broken under pressure," he said. "But you remained composed." Evelyn looked down at her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I was afraid. I did not want to embarrass you." Damian turned his head slightly toward her voice. "You did not embarrass me. You impressed me." Her breath wavered for a moment. She had not expected that. When they arrived at the estate, the hallways were dim except for the soft glow of sconces lining the walls. Damian paused in the foyer as if listening to the shift in air. Evelyn hesitated, unsure whether to retreat to her room or stay by his side. He surprised her by saying, "Walk with me." She followed him through a quiet corridor that opened into a small indoor garden. Lantern lights reflected off a shallow pond, casting gentle ripples of light across the stone floor. Damian stopped near a bench, resting a hand on its edge to find his balance. "This is where I come when the world becomes too loud," he said quietly. "Most people assume losing sight means losing awareness. In truth, I hear everything more clearly than ever." Evelyn sat beside him, leaving a respectful space. "Does it ever get easier?" "Some days," he answered. "Other days it feels like I am walking through an endless hallway with every door locked." His honesty disarmed her. He rarely spoke of his blindness. She sensed that tonight the walls he kept around himself were thinner than usual. After a moment he asked, "Why were you so frightened earlier?" She stiffened. "I did not want anyone to think I did not belong at your side." Damian tilted his head, studying the direction of her breath. "Do you believe that you do not belong at my side?" Her voice dropped. "I am trying to understand my place in all of this." He let out a slow exhale. "Then allow me to be clear. You are my wife, Evelyn. Contract or not, when you walk with me into a room, you walk as an equal. I will not allow anyone to treat you otherwise." His words settled deep inside her, warming parts of her heart she had not expected to open. A soft breeze drifted through the garden, carrying the faint scent of jasmine. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Evelyn watched the lantern light shimmer across the pond. Damian lifted his face slightly as if sensing the warmth she radiated beside him. "You are quiet tonight," he said. She smiled gently. "I am simply thinking." "About what?" "About how different you are from what people say." He let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. "People say many things. Few bother to understand anything beyond the rumors." "I am beginning to see that," she whispered. Something shifted in the air between them. Not romance, not yet, but recognition, understanding, a fragile thread connecting two people who had entered a marriage built on necessity, now finding unexpected comfort in each other's presence. Damian rose slowly. "It is late. You should rest." She stood as well. "Good night, Damian." He hesitated before responding, his voice softer than she had heard before. "Good night, Evelyn." As she walked back to her room, she realized her steps felt lighter than they had since the day she entered the mansion. Maybe it was the garden. Maybe it was his voice. Maybe it was the way he had defended her without being asked. Whatever it was, something inside her had begun to shift just slightly, just enough for hope to slip through, and that frightened her more than anything. For the next few days the estate felt strangely calmer. Damian kept his distance, yet his words in the garden lingered in Evelyn's mind like a quiet echo. She found herself replaying the way he had said her name, the steady conviction in his voice when he promised to defend her. It was not affection, it was not romance, but it was the first sign that the wall between them might be cracking. Still, peace never lasts long in a house built on secrets. On Wednesday morning, Evelyn stepped into the dining room expecting the usual routine. Instead, she found Damian standing rigidly near the head of the table, his cane gripped tightly in his hand. Helen stood beside him, her expression tense. Damian turned toward Evelyn's footsteps. "Where were you?" he demanded. His voice was sharper than she had ever heard. "I was in the library," she said carefully. "Is something wrong?" Helen stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwell received an anonymous message this morning." Evelyn's stomach tightened. A message. Damian lifted his phone, holding it out as if he could see the screen. "Someone sent a photograph of your sister Clarissa." Evelyn froze. Her heartbeat crashed loudly in her ears. The last time anyone had seen Clarissa was the day she disappeared. Damian's voice dropped lower, colder. She was boarding a plane. Alone. Hours before the wedding. Evelyn felt her breath catch painfully. "Mr. Blackwell," Helen said softly, "the sender claimed that the woman you married is not the woman you were promised." Damian turned his head sharply toward Evelyn. Silence stretched between them like a blade. Evelyn forced herself to stand tall, even as fear clamped around her ribs. "And do you believe that?" she asked, her voice barely steady. Damian's jaw tightened. "I believe someone is trying to undermine my household. Someone with access to information they should not have." Helen added, "There is more. The message said the new Mrs. Blackwell is hiding something that will destroy your reputation." Evelyn felt the air grow colder around her. Damian stepped closer, his voice controlled but trembling faintly beneath the surface. "Evelyn, is there anything you have not told me?" The question tore through her. He was so close. Close enough that she could see the glint of the chandelier reflected in his dark glasses. Close enough that she wished she could tell him everything. But the truth was a trap. The truth would shatter the fragile peace between them. She swallowed hard. "I have honored every term of our contract." He paused, as if searching for deception in the vibration of her voice. After a long moment he exhaled slowly. "There will be a board dinner tonight," he said. "Several members already heard rumors. You will attend. You will remain poised. You will not let them sense weakness." His tone was firm, but beneath it she heard something she had never heard before in his voice. Fear. Not fear of the board. Not fear of scandal. Fear that he was losing control of a life he had built piece by piece in the dark. That evening, the Blackwell estate buzzed with activity. Staff prepared the dining hall and security increased around the perimeter. Evelyn stood before her mirror, smoothing the simple navy dress Helen had chosen for her. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman carrying a truth that could break everything. When she stepped into the hallway, Damian was waiting. He turned toward her footsteps immediately. "Are you ready?" he asked. Her voice was soft. "Yes." He offered his arm. She hesitated, then gently placed her hand on it. His muscles tensed beneath her touch as if the contact startled him. Together they walked toward the board dinner. Neither of them knew that the person who had sent the message was already inside the estate, and the truth was about to strike harder than either of them expected. The board dinner began with the usual polished smiles and clinking glasses, but Evelyn sensed the shift immediately. Conversations quieted when she and Damian entered. Several board members exchanged knowing glances, the kind that carried hidden accusations. Damian held his posture steady, but the tension in his arm told her he felt every unspoken whisper. They reached the long dining table where the board waited. Mr. Lancaster, a senior member known for his sharp tongue, leaned back in his chair with a smug expression. "Mr. Blackwell," he said smoothly, "we have received some interesting information regarding your recent marriage." Damian's grip tightened around his cane. "If this is about the rumors circulating today, they are baseless." Mr. Lancaster's smile widened. Are they? Because the woman seated beside you is not the woman who was promised to this family. Evelyn felt the air drain from her lungs. Another board member slid an envelope across the table. We received this anonymously, he said. A photo of Clarissa Hart leaving the country. Hours before your wedding. Damian turned his head sharply toward Evelyn. His voice was low, controlled but trembling beneath the surface. Evelyn, is this true? The room fell silent. Every gaze drilled into her. She opened her mouth, her throat tight. Damian, I missed her. Lancaster cut in. The truth is simple. You married the wrong woman. And she knew it. She stepped into the role without your consent. Damian's expression hardened. Evelyn, answer me. Tears stung her eyes. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I did not want to deceive you. I was trying to protect my family. The table erupted in murmurs. Damian took a step back, as if the floor beneath him had shifted. So it is true, he said quietly. Every moment since the wedding, you allowed me to believe you were someone else. No, she said, shaking her head. I wanted to tell you. I tried. Mr. Lancaster seized the moment. This deception reflects poorly on the Blackwell name. If Mr. Blackwell cannot trust his own household, how can he lead this company? The words struck deeper than any accusation. Damian lowered his head. For the first time he looked defeated. Everyone leave, he said, his voice barely steady. This dinner is over. Chairs scraped. Board members filed out, satisfied with the chaos they had created. Only Evelyn remained. She stepped toward him, her voice trembling. Damian, please. You must understand. He lifted a hand, stopping her cold. I trusted you, Evelyn. Even in darkness I trusted you. He drew a shaking breath. But you let me walk toward you with open hands while you hid the truth. Her chest tightened painfully. I never wanted to hurt you. And yet you did. He turned away from her, the distance between them suddenly feeling impossible. For the remainder of our contract, he said, keep your distance. Those words shattered her more deeply than anger ever could. Evelyn stood frozen as he walked away, guided only by the tap of his cane. For the first time since entering the mansion, she wondered if the day he finally saw her face would be the day he chose never to look at her again. Days passed in heavy silence. Damian avoided Evelyn with a precision that hurt more than any words he had spoken. He moved through the mansion like a ghost guided by staff or by memory, never once turning his head when she entered a room. She respected the distance he demanded, but each step she took felt heavier than the last. Still, rumors spread quickly in wealthy circles, and the damage caused by the board dinner was already deepening. Staff whispered. Investors hesitated. And Evelyn felt responsible for every ripple. One afternoon, while walking through the East Wing, she heard Helen speaking softly to someone on the phone. The assistant's voice was sharp, controlled, nothing like her usual calm tone. No one should have had access to that photograph. It was kept in a restricted file, Helen said. Someone intended to sabotage Mr. Blackwell. Evelyn stopped in the hallway, her heart thudding. Helen ended the call and turned startled to see Evelyn standing nearby. Mrs. Blackwell, Helen said quietly, I think you should know something. Evelyn stepped closer. Please, tell me. Helen hesitated before speaking. The anonymous message did not come from a board member. It came from inside the estate. Evelyn's breath caught. Inside, yes. Someone used Mr. Blackwell's private network to deliver the file. Someone who wanted him to question you. Evelyn swallowed hard. Why would anyone want that? Helen lowered her voice. Because you are his weakest point right now. And hurting you hurts him. Those words stunned her. She had never considered the possibility that someone might see her as important enough to target. Helen continued, I have also reviewed travel records. Clarissa did board a plane, but the ticket was not purchased by her. Someone helped her disappear. Evelyn felt a cold ache settle in her chest. Do you know who Helen met? Her eyes with a look of careful certainty. I have a strong suspicion. But I need evidence before I bring it to Mr. Blackwell. Evelyn nodded slowly, understanding the gravity. Helen added, If you care about him, you cannot give up now. He is hurt, but he is not blind to the truth forever. Evelyn let out a shaky breath. I do not know if he will ever forgive me. Helen placed a gentle hand on her arm. Then show him what loyalty looks like. Show him that you are not the enemy they want him to believe. As Evelyn walked away, her steps carried something she had not felt in days: determination. She had lost his trust, but she had not lost her choice. And she would choose him even if he could not choose her yet. Damian had barely spoken to Evelyn in days, but something else had changed in him. His movements were sharper, more restless. He spent hours in his study, demanding reports, reviewing digital logs, and questioning staff with a calm voice that carried a quiet storm beneath it. On Thursday afternoon, Helen entered his study with a folder pressed tightly to her chest. "Mr. Blackwell," she said, "I have the evidence you asked for." Damian straightened his cane, tapping lightly on the floor. "Tell me." Helen took a breath. "The message that exposed Evelyn was sent from an encrypted device registered to your cousin Andrew Blackwell. He also purchased the plane ticket that helped Clarissa leave the country." Damian's expression changed in a way Evelyn had never seen before. His jaw tightened and the air in the room thickened. "Andrew," he repeated quietly. "He has been pushing for my position on the board for months." Helen nodded. "Destroying your marriage was his leverage. He knew a scandal would weaken your authority." Damian's voice dropped into a cold whisper. "And I fell for it." He stood still, absorbing the revelation. His blindness had sharpened every sense he possessed, but betrayal had slipped past him in silence. After a long moment he said, "Where is Evelyn?" "She is in the East Wing," Helen replied softly. "She has kept her distance as you requested." A flicker of regret crossed his features. "I asked for distance," he said quietly, "but she gave me honesty. I did not see it." Helen stepped closer. "Mr. Blackwell, Evelyn was protecting her family. She never wanted to deceive you. She tried to carry the entire burden alone." Damian drew in a slow breath, the truth settling heavily in his chest. He had pushed away the one person who had stood beside him without asking for anything in return. "Prepare the car," he said, steadying his cane. "I need to speak to her." Helen hesitated. "Sir, what will you say?" He lifted his head, his voice steady but laced with something softer than before. "I will say what I should have said from the beginning." But before they could leave the study, a loud crash echoed from the East Wing. Damian's posture changed instantly. "Evelyn." He did not wait for guidance. He moved with urgency, following the sound, tapping his cane with quick, determined strikes across the floor. For the first time since the wedding, he was not walking away from her. He was running toward her, toward the truth, toward the woman he had almost lost. Damian reached the East Wing breathless, the sharp tap of his cane echoing off the marble floor. He followed the faint sound of Evelyn's voice, trembling but alive. When he found her, she was crouched beside a fallen vase, its shattered pieces scattered across the tiles. "Evelyn," he said, his voice raw with urgency. She froze at the sound of his voice, then slowly looked up. "Damian, what are you doing here?" He stepped closer, lowering himself to the floor beside her. His hand moved cautiously across the tile until it brushed her wrist. She inhaled sharply but did not pull away. "I should have listened to you," he said. "I should have trusted you." Her eyes shimmered with disbelief. "You told me to keep my distance, and I regret it," he said quietly. "I let my pride speak louder than the truth. I hurt you because I was afraid of facing what I felt." Her breath wavered. "What is it that you felt, Damian?" He lifted her hand and held it gently. "I felt that you were becoming the one place in this house where I did not feel alone." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Damian continued, "Andrew betrayed me. Clarissa ran because he pushed her to. You carried the consequences of their actions, and yet you protected me. You stayed when you had every right to walk away." He reached for her other hand, holding both as if anchoring himself. "You deserve the truth from me, and you deserve a choice." She blinked. "A choice." Damian took a breath. "I am scheduled for a corrective surgery next week. The doctors believe I may regain partial sight. And when that day comes, I want the first face I see to be yours, if you will allow it." Her lips parted, trembling. "Damian, I asked you to marry me as part of a contract, he said softly. Now I am asking without a contract, without terms, without conditions. Stay with me because you want to, not because you must. A tear slipped down her cheek. I stayed because I cared, even when it hurt. He lifted a hand carefully, brushing away the tear with his thumb. Then let me earn the right to care for you too. Evelyn leaned into his touch, letting the truth settle between them. And in that quiet hallway, surrounded by broken pieces that no longer mattered, she whispered the words that mended everything. I choose you, Damian. He exhaled shakily, as if those words had given him back something he lost long ago. And though he could not see her yet, he smiled for the first time in a very long time, because soon, when the light returned, he knew exactly whose face he wanted to see.